Welcome back, everyone, to the Geoff and Gena show.
And this is episode 5 of the murder of Sir Harry Oakes.
The setup of the land scam. I'm Gena.
I'm Geoff.
And here we start.
So, the last episode we did discover Sir Harold Christie, or Harold Christie at the time, utilizing his friendship with Sir Harry, with Walter Foskett, and that led to Sir Harry's demise. So we're going to take you a little further back to who empowered Harold Christie. And
we did some research and we found
Guy Robert Brooks Baxter. Now, this gentleman, he's an American. He's got a prison record. Here we go. Guy Brooks Baxter met Harold George Christie sometime around 1921, a fortuitous meeting that would become a profitable partnership for both men. It would also set the template for how Bay Street extracted wealth from the Bahamas for decades to come. The historical silence surrounding Guy Baxter is striking. Here was a man who once owned the Grove, Caves, and Delaport.
And the Grove is
by Saunders Beach.
That's what they call the White Grove. And because there's another coconut grove that's further over the hill.
That's not that grove.
Okay.
This is all on the west side. So before Sir Harry owned a lot of land, apparently Guy Baxter Brooks owned it.
Mm-hmm.
Guy Brooks Baxter.
And who did he buy it from?
Interestingly enough, how he obtained all of this land and who from, that would be from his relationship to Harold Christie.
There you go.
And
when did they meet?
That's 1921.
Okay, gotcha.
So, like countless others during the Bahamas 400-year colonial era, Guy Brooks Baxter was an Englishman who came to Island Paradise to find a new life fortune. Baxter began cultivating sisal for export. Now, he did serve time in the U.S., apparently for some fraud situation. Got out, got himself to the Bahamas. So sisal.
Sisal was a popular, the plant, it's a flat green plant that's like kind of triangular. It's like shaped like that, and it's long. And then back in the day, they in the Bahamas, they used to take the sisal plant and set it in salt water or seawater, and then until the plant became like threads, right? And then the threads within the plant were so strong, they used to use them for rope, like so to tie boats and
make
stuff.
Make vines and vines of thick rope for the boats.
Yeah, they would twist it and dry it out, and yeah, they would make rope out of that. And so that was something that was big in the Bahamian industry, next to sponging.
Okay.
Right, selling sponges.
So 6 years of George Baxter doing the sisal business. By 1927, Baxter owned a large parcel of land known as the Grove on New Providence, which also included Saunders Beach. The area was marketed as Vista Marina, a name that captures the aspirational marketing already being applied to undeveloped Bahamian coastline destined for wealthy foreign buyers, which they would find. Harold Christie would go to Florida, West Palm Beach, to find such investment.
Seems like all that entire area that he's talking about, that Vista Marina area, and going west in New Providence, all of that was land that was designated to sell to Europeans. It was like European only. That's who they would just sell it to, white people basically. And the land that was in over the hill, that was the area that was designated for where black people lived because that was passed down to
The
them.
indigenous.
Okay, the indigenous Bahamians that lived inward, they inherited a lot of their land, I guess, from what do you call it? They call it generational property, which was left to them by wealthy landowners who, once they died, they would leave a piece of land for the people that worked for them. So that's the difference between the two areas.
Okay. Baxter and Harold Christie, they met in 1921. In 1922, Harold Christie started his real estate company, utilizing the sale to Baxter of all this land. Now, Baxter subdivided the grove into lots to market to American and Canadian market buyers eager to escape the cold winters, and H.G. Christie was right there to capture the market and that land sale. On April 15th, 1935, two conveyances executed in Nassau tell the oldest story in the colonial playbook. A rich outsider eager to buy his way in, local insiders ready to profit from his ambition, and land that somehow doubled in value between morning and afternoon.
So the prices would change based on who they were selling the land to.
Correct.
Right.
Now, Harold Christie sold 100 acres, described as a portion of the land known as the Caves, which he got from Baxter, Brooks Baxter, and a portion of the land known as the Caves, situated in the Western District, to a shell company. Now, he sells all 100 acres to this shell company called Ocean and Lakeview Limited.
Wow.
Stafford Sands, who would later become
Minister of Tourism and Minister of Finance,
at the time was a student at law and was the witness to Harold Christie's signature on the contract.
Wow.
Now, this is 1935, so later on the same day, Ocean and Lakeview Limited sells to Harry Oakes 886 acres, which now include the 100 acres it has acquired that morning from H.G. Christie for 800 pounds. The conveyance described the contract for sale as of the land known as the Caves in Delaport for $51,751 US dollars.
Wow. That's a lot of money back then.
Oh.
Those are handwritten contracts?
And these are handwritten contracts, show you, and the conveyances.
And the conveyances.
And here we go, of exactly what we're dealing with, which we
So that's what makes that contract worth the paper that it's written
on.
Yeah,
correct.
because it's handwritten.
And the conveyances.
And the conveyances, that's right. Yeah.
Now, the vastness of the property sold to Harry Oakes, all 886 incredible acres, cannot be fathomed, even today. It ran from the sea to the lake. It ran from the sea that borders Caves to Blake Road, which still exists, to border both Lake Cunningham and Lake Killarney. Now, Nassau, New Providence is 7 by 21.
Right.
The capital, very small. So basically, looked like Sir Harry owned a half or more, a little bit more than a half of the country.
We do have a map that we'll show where everything. Yeah, so you could see how much land how much land that Harold Christie sold to Harry Oakes, which would equate to about 3/4 of the 7 by 21 island that the capital was on. So that would definitely cause a clash with a royal governor that would come down that was once a king, who only who only basically controlled 25%.
You can't have more than the monarch.
Can't have more than one king, on the island. So apparently there was like 2 kings and one had to go. That's what it's looking like here.
Now on the contracts, the sale of the land, signatures of Guy Baxter as president, H. Newell Kelly, secretary,
Okay.
and of Ocean and Lakeview Limited on the conveyance selling of the 886 acres of land consisting of caves in Delaport.
Newell Kelly was also friends with Walter Foskett, who, towards the end. So now we're starting to see all the players together, that they were there before. Harry Oakes just met these guys when he decided to move to the Bahamas and invest in the land.
Correct, and it seems like all the players will come into you. We'll even introduce you to Wallace Groves as we go on.
Yeah, Wallace Groves came later, in the '60s. Yeah.
A little bit before the '60s.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just a little bit before he was active.
Yeah,
Right.
That's the picture right there.
Mm-hmm.
I have,
Okay. Now, governor of the Bahamas at the time in 1935, who ignored or was complicit.
Mm-hmm.
That's Beatty.
Beatty Clifford.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Former RAF captain.
And he was governor.
Governor of the Bahamas in 1935, who ignored or was complicit in one of the biggest land grabs in mid 20th century Bahamian history.
There you go.
Now, history may well place Bahamas Governor Beatty Clifford among a succession of ineffectual colonial administrators. He shared with many predecessors an inability or unwillingness to confront the entrenched Bay Street merchant class. That's the Bay Street Boys, a group of businessmen.
Bay Street Boys group of companies.
This group of white Bahamians who own businesses downtown.
On downtown Bay Street. Yeah.
Which was
they controlled the merchant class.
Biggest area.
They were the oligarchs.
The most expensive stores were in this particular area.
Mm-hmm.
Now, keep in mind that the governor, Beatty Clifford, now leaves his post and leaves everything as is, only to come back to be hired by the Bay Street Boys. This is the former governor. The Bay Street Boys hire him, bring him back as property manager. So that shows right there, complicit.
It's so Bahamian. That's the thing. I'm not surprised.
And the fact that they bring him back as property manager, kind of like showing how they were treating him when he was as governor.
When he was governor, yeah.
So Hal Christie's currency switch is revealing. While he accepted pound sterling from Guy Baxter, he demanded US dollars from Harry Oakes for the same property on the same day. By 1935, US dollars carried premium value in the Bahamas. The currency was more stable than the pound, which had left the gold standard in 1931. And critically, it was the currency of American wealth flooding into the islands. Christie wasn't just choosing a currency, he was ensuring maximum value from the final sale while potentially obscuring the true markup through exchange rate complexity.
That's because they were dealing with the Canadian banks. Everything was 1 to 5 at a 1 to 5 ratio. So the banks will always get like maybe $5 out of every $20, right? Is it $5 or $4?
Rounded off.
Right. So the banks were making bank.
A lot of bank. So Christie sells 100 acres for 800 pounds, approximately 4,000 US dollars at 1935 exchange rates. That's roughly $40 per acre. Okay, and hours later, Ocean and Lakeview sells 886 acres for $51,751, approximately $58 per acre.
Gotcha. So for every acre of land, it says $40?
It was 40 and then bumped up to 58.
So for every acre of land, the bank was getting $8, basically. Maybe around the $8 to $10.
Now the real question is structural. Where did Ocean and Lakeview acquire the other 786 acres? If they already owned Delaport and the remainder of the caves, why did Christie sell them just 100 additional acres that morning? And if they didn't own the rest, how did they sell 886 acres they didn't possess? The most plausible explanation, Christie and Baxter were working in concert. Christie assembled or controlled the land. Baxter provided the corporate vehicle. Together, they extracted maximum value from Oaks while obscuring the actual cost basis through the intermediary company structure. Now, if Ocean and Lakeview acquired those 100 acres from Christie for $4K that morning and sold them hours later as part of an 886 acre package for over $51,000, the same day profit was approximately $47,751, equivalent to roughly $1 million today.
Sounds like a Ponzi scheme. And then they were using the rule, when in Rome, do as the Romans do type thing. They were hanging that over everybody's head that was investing in the land, that was buying the land.
Now, even accounting for the other 786 acres in the deal, the markup remains extraordinary. This wasn't a real estate transaction. It was a masterclass in information asymmetry.
Information asymmetry is confuddling the truth.
Yes.
That's what we do around here, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So not to confuse things. You know, you don't want to confuse anything.
Keep it simple and illegal. So, Guy Robert Brooke Baxter served as company president. He wasn't merely a name on paper. Mm-hmm. He was a man with capital, ambition, and connections. And as would become clear, politics that aligned him with some of the darkest currents of the 1930s. Guy Robert Brooks Baxter is a Nazi sympathizer.
Okay.
And he builds Derby Castle in the Exumas.
In the Exumas, that's right.
On an island, Derby Island.
Derby Island.
And he builds a castle there.
There were a lot of Nazi sympathizers. He was just one of many.
3 years after the Oaks transaction in 1938, Guy Brooks Baxter purchased Derby Island, and it's a stone castle. And it stands to this day. As Europe moved towards war, he was among those in the Bahamas expatriate community who regarded Hitler not as a threat, but as a bulwark against communism and disorder. The Bahamas in this period attracted British and American exiles whose politics ranged from merely conservative to openly fascist. The Duke of Windsor, the former King Edward VIII, would arrive as governor in 1940 with his own well-documented Nazi sympathies. Finding a social circle that included men like Baxter. So Baxter was partying with
the Duke of Windsor, Axel Wintergren, and other Nazi sympathizers.
Of course, Sir Harry is there.
And I guess Sir Harry was becoming a Nazi sympathizer too. You know what I mean? Friends of with birds of a feather flock together type thing. I just saw something on there. Is that an ad for the Nazi castle? They have it for sale. Look at that. Private island complete with an abandoned Nazi castle for sale. There you go. It's right there.
Take the glare out. There you go.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah, it's real. It's real. The Nazis didn't go anywhere.
And give you a little view.
Oh, yeah.
There it is.
There it is.
Stone, made of stone. Okay, now Baxter's Castle on Derby Island. That's what the castle still stands. Tourists occasionally visit it, unaware that it was built with money extracted from one of the 20th century's wealthiest men by a Nazi sympathizer working in partnership with Nassau's premier land broker. Okay, by 1935, Harold Christie had already established himself as Nassau's preeminent real estate dealer through making all these big deals and having Sir Harry and Guy Brooks Baxter as a friend. He understood Bahamian land values better than anyone. His partnership with Baxter and H. Newell Kelly in the Ocean and Lakeview transaction reveals Christie's essential method: assemble land quietly and cheaply, insert a corporate intermediary to obscure the cost basis, then sell to wealthy foreigners at maximum markup justified by potential and exclusivity. So they would, so that's how most of the hotels got built.
Yeah.
Under those grounds.
Well, I told you they designated certain areas for Europeans only, or Americans only, and that's how they justified or got away with marking up the price way above what it was what it's really truly appraised for. But they were able to get away with that because they sold exclusivity on top of it. So people paid for what they bought, or people bought what they paid for, which was, I guess, security and stuff.
Now the patterns of the profile of such a transaction. The Oaks transaction wasn't unique; it was exemplary. The model applied hundreds of times across decades. Identify wealthy foreigner seeking tax advantages and tropical paradise. 1. 2. Assemble land quietly from Bahamian owners at modest prices. 3. Insert corporate intermediary to obscure actual acquisition costs. 4. Market land to foreigner, emphasizing potential exclusivity, investment opportunity. 5. Close sale at maximum price the market will bear, which is to say whatever the wealthy foreigners will pay. 6. Dissolve corporate vehicle once transaction complete. 7. Repeat with the next wealthy foreigner.
Wow.
And this goes on.
And that sounds like the same when when Clement Maynard was Minister of Tourism, he basically used the same formula, but he taught everybody when the tourist or the foreigner comes here, make sure they leave here with their wallet empty. So if they come here with their wallets full, they going home broke. And they got that from Harold Christie from way back in the day. Well, the land deals that like Baxter and Harold Christie and eventually Harry Oaks and stuff.
Now, they say that the land deal as presented, nothing was legal, there was no fraud.
Right.
Straightforward deal that's obviously been done.
Nothing was legal, there was no fraud.
There was no fraud.
Nothing was illegal.
Nothing illegal.
Right.
And it wasn't fraud.
Right.
And this is something that has been going on time and time again. We now know the 3 names involved: Harold Christie, Newell Kelly, H. Newell Kelly, and Guy Brooks Baxter. Now these 3 are they set this up. Guy Baxter used his profits to build his castle, and so just to introduce you to the trio.
Well, that also sounds like they had this thing set up where they sold land at market value. You know, kind of like how you sell fish and conch, you know, and lobster and stuff. You know, everything is based on a market price. That's why the prices can fluctuate from buyer to buyer. Is that, well, right now that particular piece of land is appraised at this amount, whereas if you get it appraised, it's probably the amount that they're selling it to you for is much more than what it's really worth.
And that depends upon
the way they feel at that moment. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, you look like you can afford that, so I can charge you $100,000, and meanwhile this piece of land is only worth like $5,000 or something like that. It's
everything goes up like that if it's market price, market value.
Any buck up goes. So now I'm backing up exactly what you said with just some facts, some points that come out of this book here, which is called Sir Harry Oaks, 1874 to 1943, An Accumulation of Notes. And it is written by Bob Cowan. That's Bob and Cowan, Cowan. And it's not as detailed as the way that we're presenting it, but once we put all the notes together with other research, the picture starts to become very clear as to where everything went right and where everything went wrong, and where there were a lot of misunderstandings and miscommunications, right?
So we're looking at, we already know who's who. Now we have to prove that their motivation led to the murder, and how that will all,
how that all played out, right? And page 47 of the book by Cowan starts off in 1934, where Harry Oakes left Canada and a possible Senate seat in Canada, and moved to West Palm Beach, where he had a residence there in West Palm Beach.
he wanted to escape without giving up his taxes to Canada, which were high. They offered him a seat to try to bring him in. Apparently, that's done a lot then to get the rich man in the neighborhood to be more part of the community.
It's a Commonwealth thing, yeah.
By making him part of the parliament.
Gotcha. Yeah. And that's exactly what they did, but he was so offended by the tax rate that he had to pay.
After digging up all the gold, he wanted to get 100% of his profit.
And they wanted 85% of his profit. So that was a problem. So he ended up moving to West Palm Beach, and then that's where he met Harold Christie. Now that's in 1934. And Harold Christie sold him on investing in the Bahamas. And in 1935, Sir Harry Oakes became a British citizen and was awarded baronet status. So at that time, Great Britain wanted Harry to pay taxes to them as well. So that's why they
Bahamas is still owned by the UK.
Yeah, the Bahamas was a British colony. So in him having the baronet status made it easier for him to move to the Bahamas as Harold Christie, and it looks like Newell Kelly, another real estate agent, but I don't want to insult anybody, by calling them an agent when they
associate in this particular deal.
Yeah, because they get sensitive over whether you call them a realtor or a real estate agent. I'm no agent. I just own the company, so I'm a realtor. So yeah, that Levi Gibson syndrome. You know what I mean? So anyway, July 1938, Harry Oakes became one of 29 members of the Bahamian House of Assembly when he defeated Milo Butler, a young black Bahamian grocer, by 538 votes to 70 in a by-election for the Western District of Nassau, which Harry Oakes became the member of Parliament for. When Alfred Adderley, who's known as A.F. Adderley, was elevated as a senator in the upper chamber of the Bahamian government. A.F. Adderley was the assistant prosecutor in the De Marini case when
after Harry was murdered.
Yeah, Alfred De Marini was accused of, had to stand trial for the murder of his father-in-law, Sir Harry Oakes. Alfred Adderley was one of the main prosecutors in that. So now you see how tight-knit and small Bahamian politics is with
the judicial.
They got everything mixed up in there, the court system, and it seems like it's supposed to be 3 branches of government, but they all work as one. The executive branch works with the judicial branch, and all of them are governed by the legislative branch. So it doesn't seem like there's a lot of separation of powers in the structure of government, because everybody knows everybody, or they're all related to each other, or they're married to each other, or something. Their kids are married. It's
friends, lovers.
Friends, family, and lovers. That's what they call it. Yeah. So that's why it's very hard to get justice. You get selective injustice as opposed to
justice.
Yeah, it is very difficult depending on,
and who's in power.
Yeah, it's a difficult it's a difficult circumstance to find yourself in if you're an outsider, like Sir Harry Oakes. He was an outsider that because he spent a lot of money, he got the upper hand, but he basically bought his seat in the Bahamian Parliament. That's what it's looking like. And back in the day, they did elections a little bit differently. What they did was they would have a big room and all of the voters would be in the room. And they would have Milo Butler on one side and they would have Harry Oakes on the other side. Now, apparently Harry Oakes did not have to campaign for his seat. Milo Butler did. And Milo Butler only got 70 votes to Harry Oakes, who got 538 votes, and Harry Oakes was a foreigner. Now, what they would do is they would put their hand over Milo Butler's head and say, how many people want Milo Butler for the Western District, to represent them in the Western District? And 70 people were like, woo, yeah, Milo. And then they would say, well, we also have Harry Oakes here. How many people want Harry Oakes as their representative for the Western District? And everybody would stand up and scream, and so that's how they determined that Harry Oakes was the winner, because he got more screams than Milo Butler. So yes, it's very primitive and tribal, and it's probably very traumatic for the candidates. Not too many people really wanted to run for a seat because they would have to go through the
process.
Scourging, and then you get embarrassed when you don't win. You get humiliated, and Bahamians aren't easy when you get humiliated in front of the whole country. So, anyway, in the long run, in 1967, the same Milo Butler that lost to Harry Oakes
in that embarrassing way
ended up coming back as the first Bahamian Governor General when Lyndon Pinland and the PLP won the majority rule, like you said, in 1967. So, you lose one, you gain one.
But you got to live to win the other one. Got to go through a lot to kind of like get through it all.
It's a grueling process.
And then, what we discovered, it ain't worth it.
It's not worth it. It's not worth the stress.
No.
But, and Milo Butler was the one that owned the grocery store. He owned one of the grocery stores down in the middle of the city. This one was on, I think it's Nassau Street, right? And it's right across the street from Wesley Methodist Church, which has been there forever. But everybody knew who Milo Butler was. And everybody had to go to him to get their groceries and their supplies. So it wasn't like this is somebody that they didn't know. This is somebody who was entrenched in the community that got beaten by a foreigner. So all of that buildup of emotion and loss, that is what basically caused the 1967 election to turn from the United Bahamian Party, the UBP, which was the Bay Street Boys that ran Bay Street. People just rejected them and went with the PLP government, which was the majority of the population, mostly Black Bahamians. So that's how that ended up happening. And like I said, Oakes never campaigned for his seat because his election was guaranteed from the start, which means that he bought his seat with his money when he bought up all the land. But that's just Bahamian politics for you. So on page 53 goes on to talk about Harold Christie, and says here, Harry Oakes' closest friend, Harold Christie, born of Bahamian parents in May 1896 and considered a major pioneer of land development in the Bahamas. At the time of Sir Harry's death, Harold Christie was 47 years of age, and that was considered young, huh, at that time. Because Harry Oakes died at age 67, 68.
Mm-hmm.
He was 68 when he died, so he was basically about 20 years older than Harold Christie. So just to give you an idea of the age difference between these two men, one killing the younger one killing the old man. The Christie family arrived in the Bahamas in 1780, or on and around that, with the Empire Loyalists who left America after the 1776 War of Independence from Britain. So they were loyalists who wanted to remain loyal to the crown, and they left the United States. So they were actually Americans who settled in the Bahamas and then got rich over time, selling land.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in his early 30s, Christie established a real estate firm, still bearing his initials, H.G. Christie Real Estate Company. He was first elected to the House of Assembly for riding Cat Island, the Cat Island seat, in 1927. The person who is sitting in the Cat Island seat now is the current Prime Minister, Philip Brave Davis. Just to show you how important that seat is to this day. So, yes, that was Harold Christie's seat. And Cat Island was apparently the site where Christopher Columbus landed on October 12, 1492. So Cat Island is an important constituency just for the history.
But they don't know exactly where he landed.
No, they found 4 spots where Columbus landed.
There you go.
Know, and there may be a 5th spot somewhere in the future. In 1934, Christie met Harry Oakes in Florida, where he also resided. So they had, summer homes or something like that, or second homes in West Palm Beach.
Or definitely connections to meet new possible people to bring to the Bahamas, introduce to the Bahamas.
Exactly, and that's where Newell Kelly also had a residence over there as well. So they were over there in West Palm Beach, Florida, and they met Harry Oakes and convinced him on the benefits of living in the Bahamas for both financial reasons and for health reasons. And Christie made it seem like it was a paradise, which made Harry Oakes make up his mind even faster to move his family shortly after to the Bahamas. So by the time 1940 came around, Harry Oakes was in touch with the Duke and Duchess of Windsor and Dr. Axel Wenner Gren, the Swedish industrialist that owned Paradise Island, which was called Hog Island at the time. Christie was also well known because he not only was an member of Parliament for Cat Island, but he also was the one who founded Bahamas Airways, which today is known as Bahamas Air. And he was also the first chairman of the Development Board, which is now the Ministry of Tourism. And my father made his start, or was up and coming, in the Ministry of Tourism years later afterwards. But the Ministry of Tourism where he worked was originally started by Harold Christie.
So, till next episode, this is Geoff.
And I'm Gena.
And more with uncovering the plot around the death of Sir Harry Oakes.